Hello, YouTube. We are going to go over the results we've gotten so far from our playtest and then chat briefly about some exciting changes we've already made. And that's it. Sweet. So, real quick, a lot of this may not be super interesting for y'all, but this is good data points for us on like the browsers and the operating system. There's always like more Linux users than I expect. There was way more than 2. They just haven't filled out the survey yet. How often do you experience desyncs from Saturday onward? Because we definitely had like a big desync bug for all Friday. This is very comforting to see. I am worried that people still had desyncs. It shouldn't be happening, so that's spooky. So we'll keep an eye on these. How often did you experience bugs? More often than not, never, but not never. I do remember seeing a lot of these anecdotally a lot in the server, and a few almost always. When playing offline and training, it was by far silky smooth, followed by usually playable, only a few unplayables. Online, the blue and the red sort of swap. It's usually smooth with hiccups. A few people reported silky, and then a few slowdowns and a few unplayable. And this is like a vibes question, but you know, I just see the stuff we see in the Discord tends to be biased towards people who are having a bad time, because when the game works, they don't report that it works, right? And so it can be hard to tell if it's working for people because that's just sort of an absence of noise. So I try to put something or a question like this in all the feedback forms, especially in these early stages while we're still ironing out a lot of things like the desyncs on Friday. I'm very happy to see that we had no unplayables. And a good amount of perfectly acceptables. Because if I'm asking you to show up once a month to playtest the game and it just doesn't work, you're not going to come back, right? So this is very, despite having bugs, you know, ideally this should all be blue, but I'm glad we're not actively alienating people. That said, maybe we did it, and those people didn't stick around to fill out the survey, and I'll never know. Moving on. Character feedback. The more trends to the left, the overall stronger people thought they were. So Rosie trended average, Alistair average, Book trended weak with big outliers. Harmony trended average, and Gain trended strong. Gain is the only one with a graph shaped like that. But overall, outside of this, not anything huge. Like, the goal is that all 5 of these would be the same height. So, Alistair's perfectly balanced, question mark? But nothing too crazy. Consensus seems to be, though, that Gain's the strongest, followed by Harmony, followed by either Rosie or Alistair. The book graph is crazy. Please rank in terms of how fun they were. Gain is very fun. Holy shit. Gain is very, very fun. Almost no one put Rosie as last in fun. That's pretty cool. Book was the least fun. He'd be even more fun with tapes. Hold that thought. We've got some good book news and bad book news. We got book news. Rosie is above average fun. Again, there's no, ideally everyone is above average, but they can't be. That's zero sum. So I guess we're hoping for a relative mean and no like really negative outliers. And it looks like Book, again, leaned to negative. Harmony leaned to negative. Alistair more well-rounded. Rosie a lot higher. So even if people don't think she's the strongest, she's fun to play. That's cool. That's important for the Ryu, for the default character. So I'm glad. And then how frustrating were they to fight against? Strong positive outlier in Harmony. Interesting. And then this is nice. Usually the fear is like when you say like, oh, characters are really strong, and sometimes if they're very fun to use, it's because they're oppressive, and so they're not very fun to play against. So I'm happy to see that Gain wasn't a huge purple bar. Alice, this is kind of weird. So essentially, polarizing opinions on Alistair in terms of either being a problem or not being a problem. But again, no huge outliers except for this one. I'm curious if it's because of the unintended, like if you do jump, be really close to the ground, you can sort of set up high level unblockables. Or if it's just like, I don't know what this character's doing, they're flying around, she's got big buttons, that assist is annoying, the anti-air is annoying, that kind of stuff. It's not huge, but it is something to note. Overall feedback. I goofed up. Next time I'm going to split this question into two parts, which is, I put this here as with the intention of giving feedback to Mike, our stage illustrator, and M, our composer. And I realized that it's conflated. Maybe people liked Void for the art, maybe they liked it for the music. So next time we'll split this into two questions. What was your favorite stage visually, and what was your favorite stage audibly? But cool, surprising to me personally to see Void such a strong, dominating one. I wonder if that's just one of the darker, simpler backgrounds, or if it's because of the banger music, which is definitely different from most of the other ones. Although Magitorium had the same music. These are the only two stages that had the same music, because we're making stages faster than songs. There was a way to choose the stage. It was super secret. If you go to character select, and you press assist 2, you pick the stage. You can very barely see it behind the character select. Yes, this whole time. Not well documented. I was just talking to Soup about this like 2 weeks ago of like, do we want to cram this somewhere into this menu? Do we want to have like a second menu? Where do we want to put this? It's there for now. Getting stronger reactions than I would have anticipated, so I'll prioritize servicing that. No, I'll save the features for the end. Let's finish the survey first. What type of merch? This was super cool to ask for. I don't know what to make. We were going to these fighting game events, and I asked someone at Boston Blue Beat. I went up to one of the artists. We had a nice long conversation, and she had these. She was selling mostly like VTuber stuff, I think. I didn't recognize a lot of it, but she had bottle openers with little cute chibi VTubers on them, and a bunch of more like unusual merch, like specifically shaped bags. It was interesting, and I asked her like what sold the best. We only have a limited supply of merch and pretty simple stuff. I want to start ordering stuff. What's good? And she gave me the very good advice of depends on your market. Who are we selling it to? So I figured why not ask the market? And it looks like the strongest ones are keychains, stickers, pins, plushies or minifigures. Those would be very cool. That's a big leap in production effort. Also, yeah, sorry, I can zoom this in a little bit more. Sweatshirts is low. Yeah, what's low? Hats is low. That's good to know. I was about to go get hats. Posters are low. This definitely bore out with Tough Love Arena. I'm going to die with 100 unsold Tough Love Arena posters of 5 different images. Because turns out when you're at a fighting game convention, you don't want to buy a fragile piece of paper that you then have to babysit for the rest of the day. So if you go to a New York event, I'm tripping over my words. It's been a long day. If you go to a New York event that we're running, and you know I'm going to be there, because I do have to miss some of them, and you want a Tough Love Arena poster, DM me beforehand, and I'll bring you a Tough Love Arena poster. I'll just give it to you for free. Sorry to everyone who paid. It's not worth the effort to bring them. They're surprisingly heavy when stacked up. And they take up a lot of space in the suitcase. And they're fragile, so I don't bring them to cons anymore, now that we don't booth Tough Love Arena. But if you want them, I've got them. But this is not a Tough Love Arena stream. Blank 1, give me money. I personally prefer to get merch that is more subdued, like if character art shirts. Okay, this one's, oh my god, right. But I prefer to wear merch that I can wear in public that isn't a giant neon sign that says, hey look, this guy's wearing some merch. Yeah, no, I get that. I was, do we want personal stories during this stream right now? Remind me after, and I can tangent on that. How did you hear about us? And this was meant to be like a multi-select, so you could pick all the different ways you heard about us, so that we can learn like what channels are working. Tough Love Arena being a big one, convention, IGN YouTube, Evo YouTube. This was more than I thought. I could tell that we got like a big influx of users to the Discord after the IGN video went up. And then the Evo video went up like a day or two later, so it was hard to tell if that was part of the IGN traffic or separate. Referred by a friend, and then a few random people noticed the artist, Nerd Josh, playing on Switch. I saw right before I shut down that he had like 40 viewers. I was sad I couldn't join the stream because I was streaming. Describe the most memorable moment. I don't know if we'll read all of these. I don't know if we have time, but I've read a bunch of them already. We'll skim it a bit. Because there were some that were very charming. As soon as I read this one, I knew who it was, which was funny. This is really good. Again, I'll say over and over. I'm trying to make a game that's very fun to lab. I stocked up with the game mid-combo in a match after a couple hours of practice, then supered at the end. DHC'd into Bomb Rosie, and I didn't know that I could hit again, which was fucking cocaine. But then the match desynced, and then my heart broke. That's definitely a memorable moment. New Harmony writing was sick. Get my butt kicked, but showed how wild and grimy this game can be. Still had a lot of fun. First flight character she's ever clicked with. Labbing book combos for 3 days straight. Emoji. Yes, the scary damage, especially like Harmony, just doing 5S, 5S, 5S. That actually just kills. That I just nerfed the DHD damage, I think, near the end of the playtest. I'm curious if it kills still. With the buff, almost certainly. Oh, whoops. Okay, yeah. What about heavy? That's about the same. Right, I nerfed the super... This is post-nerf. Post-scaling nerf and that specific move nerf. I wanted it to be the strongest. It didn't need to be that much stronger than the other ones. Oops. 4-hour set with Nerd Josh. Sweet. Just labbed all weekend. The most memorable moment was short assist cooldown. Landing infinites on assists that are left over after I KO'd the point characters. Hell yeah. Getting second in the community tournament. Come back for 1 HP. I hit this one anti-air and then improvised a combo into DHC Rosie's bomb super, which I thought whiffed. Then the bombs exploded and OTG letting me continue the combo, which could have killed had I not panicked and dropped the final hit. I was motivated to hit the lab. Keats always does this combo to me. Or he did at Evo. I didn't have a chance to play really with anyone over the weekend. That I find inspired. So... Wrong one. Alistair's this super. Like, you can DHC into grenades and try to get up there, right? Or you can do this. You wait, and you get a grounded combo. It's dumb that OTGs make them grounded. That should pop them up. I know. I want to do that. It just takes time. We'll get around to it. But this is sick. finding really messed up book push tech. When my assist got hit with an infinite, so the other side of that other memorable moment, memorable for both. Bring this to a local and seeing everyone love it. Thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate that. Realizing I can OTG. Playing my friend who used Harmony as anchor and getting TOD'd the moment I got touched once. Getting one game. Learning a new book. Really liked the unique aspects of the characters and learning them organically. Playing for 4 hours, relearning Harmony. MVC style assist kills. I beat Keats 1-20. Rosie not turning around. This is a bug. This actually should be fixed now, I think. I think we fixed it near the very end. Yes. Very fun learning to play, very frustrating against players. That's... Yep. that's the genre, I guess. Not excusing it, you know, but that's very funny. Made friends in the Discord voice chat, which is awesome. Currently in the middle of developing a game, so it was comforting seeing a game in progress. Yeah, awesome. I felt safe to do this after the Skullgirls Endless beta. Harmony THCing into herself was very cool, I'm sure. Beating my friend Savvy, all very good. Got clutched on by 1 HP gang going nuts with mixtapes. Again, I think that's the inverse of someone else's who said they got 1 HP and got a sick comeback. Didn't realize dash cancel were possible until I played a match. Played it for 60 hours. First time I got completely lost in a fighting game for half. Very cool. 0-20. Finding cool comments for the wiki. Probably the time when the game had a seizure and me and my opponent and I were teleported. Okay, that's just, yeah, that's a clock desync. Apologies for that. Having a blast without having to lab first. Amazing. Because that move has so much sauce. Someone converted a full combo of attack that hit me backwards, which was wild to see. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Like, recurring things here, like, you know, praise is always good. But it's really nice when it's something that you were trying to do. I gotta stop touching stuff. And so specifically seeing the repeated threads of, like, being fun to lab, being playable without labbing, and, like, weird situations. There was a conversation in, I think, Playtest chat about, like, anchoring attacks and whether or not attacks should anchor for more consistent, like, juggling. And there was some back and forth. But it got to the heart of specifically why I chose the first word of this game's title. I wanted to put Scramble in it. To me, the most exciting part about versus games was those weird conversions. Or you've been playing this game for hundreds of hours, but suddenly, through a weird confluence of factors, you see a situation you haven't seen before. And can you adapt? And how powerful that feels when you adapt. And obviously that's going to happen way more when you're starting off. But that's... Thank you to everyone who took the time to write these out. That was really validating. Now for the negatives. If you could change one thing about the game... Oh, we don't need to read these. No. If you could change one thing about the game, what would you suggest? Speed up combos, reduce hit stop. Make the input tighter. There's definitely input queuing issues, which I can explain at the end if people are curious. We got a few comments about this. I agree. We'll work on that. Typically against invul moves, we are considering this. Drastically reduce frame advantage. Yeah, that's a lot of Harmony's new air stuff is pretty unpolished. Defense felt weak. Pushback felt weak. We got that a lot as well. Once around burst mechanic. I don't want to add burst specifically because I don't think I want games to be longer. But this weekend did get me thinking again about a sort of like alpha counter. mechanic that would cost resources, but it would be another defensive tool. Whether that's like a tag and assist like it is in Marvel games, or a dead angle. I kind of liked how DBFZ did it, where you could still do it on your last character. They had like a unique little animation. So just thinking about that. Same thing with snapping. I would love to add snapping. Honestly, the biggest issue of snapbacks is, where do I put the input? That's a rhetorical question. You can give me suggestions. I've thought about it a lot. We can talk about it more later. But these are still, these are core mechanics that should get out sooner than later. Meep, I really want to avoid having any 3-button inputs. It's hard enough. It's bad enough doing like down and super, because on some keyboards, one of those keys just won't register. And keyboard is a primary audience, so I just don't think we can use 3 buttons. Alistair's beam assist. I'm basically looking. I don't think we're ready to take it out yet, but I'm looking forward to the day when we can take it out. I want to minimize how many times characters have moves that are assist only. I'm cool with meter gain on gain, but I think that's kind of the only one I want to have that way so far. Hope you consider making more than 8 characters. We'd love to make more than 8 characters. 8 characters is just what we've determined as the launch roster. That's what I feel like we have to have before we can sell this game for money. But 100%, depending on how quickly we can do that and how much money we make as soon as we do it, I'm going to add characters for as long as I have ideas and money. And as long as, my team want to keep working for me. Movement is so good. You can play very uninteractive passive, especially with Alistair Beam Assist. Yeah. Having the ability to save teams with colors and their chosen assists for quicker access. I definitely would love to have that long term. I know a lot of 3v3 team games have it. We'll talk about this in features at the end. Things we've added. But this is the run back to reselect your team was a common issue. I think it should be harder to steal the corner. Yes, this is largely just due to mistakes. I don't want you to be able to steal the corner outside of like specific sort of teleporty moves. We will fix this. More uses for a meter, maybe an expensive combo breaker. That could be one use if we make it like level 3. I'm open to doing maybe level 3s, but especially with the solo thing, then that might make it too easy for like dump 5 meters to guaranteed insta-kill. Scrimbled first time chat, thank you, says, I actually quit Skullgirls when I was a new fighting game player because I couldn't back throw on my keyboard. Really appreciate you looking out for keyboard players. 100%. I learned that the hard way because Tough Love Arena, my first game, which was also designed for browser and for keyboard, originally only had 2 buttons, and in order to like do throw and to do specials, you press them both at the same time. So I could say it's only a 2-button game. And I realized that in addition to having to add all these carry cancel logics and stuff, it just wouldn't come out reliably. Oh my god, no. The bigger issue was because Tough Love Arena was originally 2 buttons, my dream was that 2 people could sit down and play on the same keyboard. So you'd have to like sit at an angle, but like one person gets the arrow keys and, comma period, and the other person gets like WASD and XC. Because when I played emulator games as a kid, we would like crowd around one computer and use the emulator to like map keys to different sides of the keyboard. And then I discovered that if you start doing a combo on me, I can just hold down all of my keys and then you'll drop your combo. So I gave up on that. As Time Lost Gamer, if you don't know, if you want to test this on most keyboards, open any like place where you can type in letters. I'll do it right now. I'll just use my address bar. If I type A, B, C, D, as I keep pressing more keys, I am pressing more keys. But I'm holding all the original ones. And at a certain point, your keyboard, the way it's like wired underneath, it does a bunch of shortcuts. Not every key has its own wire. It like batches them in groups. And so it just can't send that much information, or it can't parse it when you have that many keys pressed down. It doesn't actually know what you're pressing because it can't take advantage of how it's mapped out. Very funny when I realized you could just hold to turn them off. So you can do that. You can still remap Double Arena to fit on one keyboard, but it's no longer like an advertised feature. Life is so much better in the N-Crow era. Is this something they've changed recently? I've never heard that term. Oh, is that N key rollover? Have they just been like improving it? Yeah, maybe like WebGL eventually. Technology will catch up to my vision. Possibility to tag after an assist. That's called active tagging, and that will never be in the game. But thank you for your suggestion. Let Book do solo stuff. E.g. let jump straight up, jump back down, jump A, hit crouchers that aren't harmony. Giving 2S more downwards reach, etc. I'd definitely be open to doing this. He can do some solo stuff, but I hear you. Rosie Bomb going away on block like Alistair Hidden Missile. Right, because right now it only goes away on hit, I think is the logic. Those should probably be consistent. I'm not sure which one I prefer. Yeah, Book's block goes away on block. I determined that was necessary. So maybe Rosie's Bomb can go away on block. Some input leniency could be changed. Dashing without dash mash guard on button dash feels horrible. Yeah, the D-pad dashing, directional dashing is rough right now. No issue. Better training mode options. Open to like specific suggestions if people want to throw those in the feature request channel. I don't think it's locked yet. Happy to take those. Push block. I hear you. Input reader problem. No issue. Mix. Right, this comment. You can't cross up. You can just barely high-low. Character and setup dependent, although you can technically tell either when you're going to happen to the dimensionally floatiness. Command grabs are attackable, and with the game being so floaty, up backing and push block will leave you in the air for years, albeit vulnerable to air grabs. I disagree. I think that there is sufficient mix. There's not truly like unblockable 50-50 mix, but there are strong enough high-lows thanks to every character basically having air dashes and a lot of fuzzies that I think the mix is pretty underexplored at this point. So, I hear you, and it's definitely going to feel like a step down from traditional Marvel or anime fighters. But, oh, and to that thread, push block, or up backing is way worse in this game than in, like, Marvel 3. It is fully vulnerable for the first 4 frames of jump squat. So you cannot up back during block strings. If they're in any way tight, you will get tagged. And you'll get tagged standing, and you'll eat a standing combo. Up backing is pretty bad. Once you're in the air, yes, that's a very safe position. And we have an idea for that. But up backing is not great. Allowing all 3 characters on screen so I can do Merry Christmas combos. I have thought about this. There is something missing there. I just don't know how to do it. Because I'm not sure if I want to add like THCs. They were so niche. They feel so niche. Anyways. Probably some sort of same move. Damage penalty for normals. I'm open to exploring that. Add scaling to Invincible Super into DHC. Yes. I also want to... Dacid gave me the idea of like adding stronger scaling to some of the Invuln Supers. Kerbo says, speaking of why do some moves push the opponent into the air during block stun? Specifically, yeah, Book's wheel does that. That's an oversight that I see every time. I'm like, yeah, that shouldn't do that. And it does. Oops. We can fix that. The issue is that it has it's giving like a little bit of vertical momentum so that if it hits you airborne, it keeps you airborne and you don't like fall through it. And normally I gate that on like versus air versus ground, or like only on hit, not versus block. And it's just missing like one line of code to say only do that on airborne, hit and block. Don't do it on grounded, hit and block. I'll just fix it right now. Book, puppet. What do I call this? I've renamed these things so many times. I think it's push. So yeah, the initial attack and then the multi-hit attack. Yes. So we would just change this to posture air, posture ground, let's test it. Oh my god. Lag spike aside, that looks right. So in the air, he stays airborne. Yeah, let's get in the corner. Stays on the ground. Fixed. Sorry I didn't do that during the weekend. I had a lot of bigger fires to put out. I have to also respond. Video Soup said, active tag boss CPU only. We're probably not going to do this. But I flirted with the idea of one character being able to active tag. One of their unique strengths is that when they call assists, they can do an active tag. As like a gimmick. It would only be one character, and it would be like a flavorful thing. It was this design I was trying to think where he really benefits from your assists. Like we were trying to think of the character that breaks rules like that. Like he could still call assists after they die. Or you get some sort of benefit when they die. That would be like specific to the character, the teammate that died. I don't think we're going to go in that direction. But I thought of it as a funny thing. And we could do it CPU only. That is tempting. Air throws restanding when done low to the ground is a bug. Reversal super should scale. Agreed. No more rosy command grab assists. I disagree. I get hit by this thing endlessly. I tilt every time. I think it's beautiful. It needs to stay in the game. At the beginning, I would have said neutral blocking, but I think now I'd say jump momentum. Do a move that pushes you forward like Rosie 5H, then putting 8 only to get a 4 jump because the momentum feels a little unwieldy. That is interesting. That preserving momentum was very intentional. And the way I thought to do it is I wanted you to jump forward and jump back to be predictable. So jump neutral essentially just doesn't assign a directional speed. I don't know if people realize this, because I didn't. Like that's books, like dash into jump neutral. If this is jump right, that's dash neutral. Right before the playtest, on the last day of Evo, we tuned Rosie and Robot's ground dashes to be way faster at start and then sort of slow down. To make wave dashing better. Because before there was like no reason to wave dash with them. I think this is a little too strong. I'm going to dial this back just a bit. But before, like, it was just strictly worse than running. She ran at a constant rate, so why would you ever wave dash? But this additional boost means you can do this. And, yeah, sorry, gain. I use the playtest names interchangeably because I'm bad at my job. Gain can do the same thing. So to me, that is partially a selling point. I could totally get if it feels weird. And I do want momentum to exist in certain places. I'm still getting a handle on it. I hear you. But at least know that, like, if you want predictable routing, that's what the diagonal jumps are currently for. Book assists need nerf coming from an anchor book player? Nah, he's fine. Please remove the ability to hold neutral to block. Absolutely not. That is the core. The game is designed around it. So if you don't like that, then we'll just agree to disagree. It's a preference, but I think heavier damage scaling on lights would be nice to make mashing on defense a little less strong. Yes. Right now, there is no concept of, like, this strength leads to this scaling formula or this scaling starter. There's a few moves that are specifically tagged to, like, have a scaling penalty if it was the first hit, and that's basically the reversals, and, like, Book's parry and throws. But there's no scaling difference on any of the normals, on basically anything that's not a reversal or a throw. And I'm open to doing that. So whether that's you just, like, jump straight to 80% scaling and then math down from there, or if the scaling has a different curve, I could play with those. But I'd want to do it in a more systemic way. Sorry, I got something in my eye. Great VOD content. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to upload this. Thinking about it. There are too many loops in this game, where I loop the same 2 to 3 moves over and over again, and for how easy these loops tend to be, they are pretty optimal. I think it should be a looping prevention system like Skullgirls, where if you perform the same string twice in a combo, the opponent will get knocked out, or just patch them out. I agree. I do not like the loops as they exist right now. They are somewhat inevitable. I want to make it a game where you could do loops. I kind of like the idea of a loop being like an easy beginner combo. So I simultaneously want loops to exist to some degree and make them unoptimal. The degree to which they're also possible, I'm not sure. And it depends. So stuff like this loop is just sort of a consequence of how fast she moves and how much hit stun heavies have. So that I would want to discourage with, like, damage scaling, harsher IPS scaling. Something like the spear loop, where you go corner to corner with, like, the stand heavy into, like, Tiger Knee air special, was not on my radar at all. No one had ever tried to do that. That almost certainly has been in the game for like 6 months. Maybe it was in the Meep combo video, and I forgot. If so, I'm sorry, Meep. But that was just totally not on my radar. That was alarmingly strong, and it's like 2 hits. That I might have to remove by changing, like, the physics on either, or the timing or the recovery. But I want to be careful because I have other combos that are similar that I don't want to remove because they're more interesting and fun. The most egregious offender that definitely needs to get nerfed is the... I can't even do it on keyboard. That shit. So I agree. Loops are too prevalent right now in optimal routing. I don't want to watch a game where all the combos are just a bunch of heavies. Whoops. I lost my place. Where's... Okay, we still got a lot left, so let's try and go through these faster. And yeah, we're basically doing something similar to Skullgirls. Not exactly the same. But I have exciting news for that at the end. This is... Oh my god, it's been an hour. Oh my god. I have other shit I have to do tonight. We got Anime NYC this weekend. I got a lot of stuff to do. Moving on. Meter damage could stand to be nerfed. Agreed. Input buffer. Known issue. Buffered inputs during Super Flash. Known issue. Slightly stronger push block. Yes. I've heard it. Keep the game as it is. This is my favorite comment. I think the assist selection is fine for the most part, with the exception of 2 in particular. Laser and Death Grip are rather over-centralizing their usage and role in the game. I agree with Laser. The latter is extremely rewarding on hit, and its ability to allow for setup, move you to corner, etc. is something extremely strong that I think should be addressed. That's fair. I don't think it's as clear as Laser, because I think Not tread lightly. The forward moving one. Or no, that is tread lightly. That's tread lightly. 4D is undertow. The forward special, I think, is maybe her best assist. But Death Grip, as a move, I've been very disappointed with. I was very excited about it, and the more I play with it, both as an assist and in neutral, it feels a little too feast or famine-y. I will agree that it serves probably too many purposes as an assist right now, being both space controller, essentially kind of a lockdown, and combo reward. It doesn't need to fill all those roles. Sorry, excuse me. So, I agree. Unlike most people, I like the push block. But I do think some block strings are too strong or long. Not sure how to balance it. Especially if we do something like alpha counters. That's something that I'm hoping will help. And we have other plans for push block. Replace one of Gain's assists with a stomp move. Not as an overhead, obviously, but to function as a restand. I've thought long and hard about this. At a certain point when characters have less moves, or very specific moves, we can't have assists that hit high or low. And I'm glad this person recognizes that. I don't want to create checkmate situations. I don't want to create unblockables that a character with no invuln like Book would just get endlessly looped by. But personally, I feel like if you take a move that normally hits overhead and then you see it, but it's not an overhead, that's confusing. Back when he didn't have enough moves, I think at ECT, one of Book's assists was his jumping heavy. He would jump out, he would just like land and then do a jumping heavy. Jump C with the Book, the pipe. And that's strong for, like, you get the ground bounce. But people assumed it was an overhead because it's a jumping attack. So I think the confusion is not worth it. And we do have a restand assist with Harmony Hook. I do want there to be a restand assist, but it's okay if he doesn't have it. Gain does not need a reversal super. Alistair Super Beam does not do that much damage. I didn't realize it actually did that much damage. I'll look into this. Input reader issues. Gain infinite block string. I've heard you. Reduce screen width. This feels like a 4x3 game like MVC. I am not sure on this. So they're talking about the fact that, like, having it zoom out this far allows you to move and create a lot of distance. I'm sort of waiting until we finish the next character or get her, to a playtestable state, who is our zoning character. And I think I'm going to sort of, I'll be tweaking her design, but she will give me good data points on how the screen needs to change. Because my fear is that the screen will get so big that she can't meaningfully fill it with enough stuff. Or if the screen is too small, then she can't push you far away enough to do her zoning. So I think we don't have a zoner yet, not a real one. So I've heard that comment a few times. I'm going to wait on that one. An AI to live against training mode. AI is pretty far away for our game, but I hear you. Input commands. I like the option of it. Does that mean like the ability to do quarter circles? We experimented with this, and I don't think I'm going to add them. Maybe with removing some of the bugs that I faced. Okay, I'll work on it. Make pushback feel more meaningful. Definitely we're going to improve the animation. Don't have anything in mind besides wanting the game matchmaking to actually work. Yes, I know there was a lot of issues with connecting and matchmaking. I'll be looking into those. Some of the damage posts gives you a little more oomph. That's interesting feedback. I'll pass that along. Defensive options. We talked earlier about alpha counter. We're not adding parry. Just an indicator when my next character is coming into the frame. The whole death and incoming situation is very work in progress. And the first thing I want to do is like have the dead character stay longer so you can tell where the assist is actually, where the new character is going to come in. So all that stuff can be made better. I agree. And they could maybe come in with an attack. Or actually, no, that's just raw tag. Or maybe they'll like freeze frame as they come in it's all the general gameplay feel is what I want in terms of like raw tags being slow and incoming being like you're invulnerable until you're on the ground, so you don't have to get stuck in the air. But how it plays out and how it feels and how it's visually communicated is all definitely still in progress. Because wave dash back is so accessible, it feels really strong to retreat over the huge stage space allotted. It is very accessible. I think at some point I was considering down, back, and dash giving you forward dash. I can't remember if that was like an OS that would help you, and that's why I didn't do it. I'll think about that. About the back dash part. Let Harmony do stuff after a dash? No. She's supposed to feel like garbage on the ground. That is her design. Characters need weaknesses, and one of her weaknesses is being a very stiff lady. Gain feels a little strong. Sorry, not to just come out and like start a fight or anything. I hear your comment. That is why it is that way. Gain feels a little strong compared to the rest, and yes, this is very triggering. Clear combo max bar counter feels necessary. Yes, current one also very work in progress. We'll have Soup design something that looks a lot less temporary and might integrate into the HUD better. I would delete Harmony. More comments about zoom out. Push blocking and momentum feels weird. Faster reversal supers at the cost of a lot of their damage. I don't like that all supers are safe jumpable, safe jabbable. I think I disagree with this. Maybe not all supers. I could experiment with having faster supers that aren't invuln. But I like reversals being safe jumpable in this game. I like that you can play around the reversal in that way. Make motion inputs optional. I don't think I'm going to do this. We're going to fix input buffer during Super Flash. That's okay to have two things. Custom keybinds. This is also something we can totally add. Semicolon is an attack button. Allow the select button to reset to neutral. You'll see I have a version of this right now. It just needs a little bit debugging. Because the problem with reloading this fast is we are constantly you couldn't use it. It's only on development. So you weren't missing out in that way. It's turned off because the way we are constantly loading sprites in and out mid-match. And when you come in for a DHC or a raw tag, that essentially gives us a small grace period where we already had those sprites loaded, but now we have time to load in like all of your normals and other stuff. And so the problem with a reset like this is it wouldn't respect that. If you had out gain and then you save state and then you tag in spear and then you tried to hot reload, as it is right now, it will crash. So either I need to like put in a small pause into that's probably the solution. Just like maybe a very quick like fade to black, fade back in, make sure all the loading is done. We'd want it to be fast for sure, but it needs that. DHC damage is high. I agree. Hard to consistently combo into Harmony's jump B compared to the previous beta. It is definitely slower. It is way slower. I did that as a compensation for how much more versatile it is, bigger hitbox and stuff. It might be a little too slow. Anything else? Can't wait for more. Put pork in the game. I would love to, but all of our characters have faces. Game has a classic feel, early 2000s in a good way. Thank you. Game was awesome. This is all positive. Thank you. Super fun. Is it possible to have more spread out to include more days of the week to take it to a local? Maybe. The plan is to just do weekends for the foreseeable future. Because that's just when I assume people are most available and we can get the most playtime. Because every day that I'm like babysitting a playtest is essentially not really a work day for me, or it's way less productive. So I'm reluctant to schedule one early in the week or in the middle of the week, and I don't want to do it for like a whole week. I want these to be short and sweet and then out. So I hear you. That's especially if you have like a Tuesday local. That's unfortunate. It's hard to bring it. I'll think about that. I'll think about that. Thank you for suggesting it though. Some responses are not that educated, so maybe there are more I assume they meant optimal questions. Or they're asking more optional questions in the future, maybe. Okay, I'll take a look at the form. Fantastic, thank you. Very nice. These are all very nice. I'm just gonna start skimming for the sake of my voice. The controller support, oh my god, it was so frustrating. I spent the last 3 months going to events and plugging in everyone's controller and farming controller support, only to discover on day 1 of the playtest that was all on Macs, and the way a Mac identifies the controller is different from the way Windows does it half the time. Not all the time, but half the time. For some controllers, it just has a different ID, or it's called something different. And so then I don't recognize it. I don't have it, pre-selected. I'm not ready to interpret its weird inputs. I'll work on that. It was too last minute to fix it once we realized what was wrong. But I'll definitely work on both general support so it can be truly plug and play, and also it's probably still worth investing more options to let you just map your all 4 directions. None of the characters irk or put me off, which feels amazing. Thank you. Really appreciate the slowish, by anime standards, moves and lengthy hit stop. It makes the game more readable to new players. A major strength of using web technologies is that getting the game running on a new computer takes a few seconds, requires no installations. I'm glad you feel that way. This is the whole reason we're in the browser. And I know we got, comments the opposite, and it's different, but I'm glad you also appreciate this, because this is part of the effort. Throwing out my character opinions, never played a single match. Oh, but went into training. Game, okay, lots of perf issues. Had some controller issues. Okay, so sorry about this. Sorry I had that experience. And I know Steam Deck, which is essentially Linux browsers have really shaky web GPU support. So some of this will just naturally improve with time. Some of this we will be working on. So sorry you didn't have a great time. Hopefully the next one will be better and smoother. Let's play Nor. No. But thank you. Character specific combos is neat, whether intentional or not. It was not intentional. I it's inevitable that you'll be able to do certain stuff against standing Harmony that you can't do against standing Rosie because she's taller, and I want to preserve that. But once they're in the air, I want that to feel very consistent. So that's a known issue. Please fix input buffer. Harmony's very cool. Please keep changing her. This is probably from the person. There's someone in the Tough Love Arena community who every survey for the last 2 years they've said, Noodle is great. Please don't change him. So this is a fun inversion. Most fun I've had since 2XKO Alpha and Skullgirls. Kicks ass and feels cleaner. Thank you. Brought the game to my workplace with a couple controller and a great time break. That's amazing. Thank you. Very, very well put together. And enjoy 4 out of 5 character designs. One is so unfinished and non-functional. Alistair's art is the roughest because he's been redesigned 3 times visually and gameplay. I'm very happy with his gameplay system. That's basically final. And hopefully we can do more in later tutorials to explain his character gimmick. Every character essentially has a gimmick. And his maybe being less obvious is the Rekka system. And I think it's pretty deep and interesting. But you do have to understand it, or else he'll feel like he can't do anything. A lot of potential. Thank you. Playing Alistair because beam assist, but less intuitive. His normals feel a little awkward. I'm not sure why. They are linear, if that means they're thin. He has a lot of issues with his heart is standing heavy. 5C is, I made it a lot bigger than the spear, but it still feels pretty narrow. It's hard. It's easy to miss juggles into that. His stand B used to be exactly the same, and then I realized, oh my god, it's impossible to pick up juggles. So that's why now this is huge in terms of at least like vertically being very forgiving. And he also, compared to other characters, I think I've fixed this. You can probably still do it there. He has ranges where his launcher doesn't hit. There's less of them now. He used to have a really far-reaching 2B, and so you could do like 2B into 2C, and the 2C wouldn't connect. And that was the fault with 2C having a smaller hitbox and 2B having a bigger hitbox. That's kind of why we reeled this one in. But there is still stuff like this. Or that. So you do sort of have to learn a little bit of like, if you just only, route that way, or just if they're far away, you're largely just doing this to, confirm into that or to go into Rekka. So there's a learning curve on his normals. More than most characters have now, because it used to be even worse, and that was a good wake-up call. That felt bad. That being his new 5B really makes such a difference in terms of making him satisfying to play. Great EX slider, I'm so glad. Aerial bow is kind of a strange move. This is definitely rough. This was like a hastily reworked version of his stance heavy that's existed for 2 years. So it's literally the same thing, but we cut his legs off. I don't know if you noticed. It's the same sprite with no legs. I do really like the function of this, so we'll draw something more bespoke and something that reads a little bit better. And like has actual recovery frames. So that's, his art is the roughest. I like 2H being universal. Most excited. Thank you. Thank you. Had problems with sticks. Thank you for writing these out. I'll look into these later. I think I own this one. Voiceover. Yeah. Happy to talk. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please keep the power level high. Thank you. Appreciate this. Weren't a big fan of the loops. Same roof proration. Yep. I'll talk about that in a second. I love the scrambly feeling. It really reminds me of playing MVC2 for the first time. I was worried the game is slow and floaty, but the attacks are really fast, and this combination makes the game very comprehensible, but also super dynamic and back and forth. Yes, we get the floaty feedback a lot. And sort of my intention with that is you should basically never jump. You should never complete your jump. I wanted to have big vertical jumps so that like air juggling was easy, and if you really wanted to cross up, and for beginners, you have a nice, simple arc. But the reward for learning how to play is you should basically always be doing this. And even then, like Alistair has the floatiest air dash intentionally because he goes up. So it takes longer to like connect. So I've heard a lot of the floating feedback, so I'm super excited to hear someone that felt that way and then sort of changed their mind. So that's great. This is about audio accessibility. Will do. Thank you. There will eventually be VA. I want to wait until we have the initial roster set so that we can record call-outs and be like, Book, come in here. And, we can't do that until we know all the names. And we might end up renaming Alistair because it turns out he's very similar to another character in a popular game. So we're putting that off. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely buy an art book. Thank you. My friend requests more green palettes. I'll pass it along to Savvy. Thank you, thank you. I do want to do this. I just need to figure out how to repurpose my menus or redesign my menus to fit. Because if you couldn't tell, right now all the menus are designed to be accessible by both players and to be drawn in the center of the screen. So, yes, this I think is necessary. Any game needs this to be serious. We will work on it. Okay, I tried to read this earlier. Allow me to say I quite enjoy this game and I'm very pleased with its content, but I have one thing I'd like to ask you, the dev. For the majority of my life, I've been tortured by a query that I've never once had the ability to answer. This question keeps me up at night and down at day. It makes me think, and yet at the same time it makes my mind go blank. It tickles my desire to reach out to the farthest star in the heavens and grasp it between my fingers, but it also stirs within me the urge to return back into the earth, like the noble earthworm to soak in the nutrient-rich bounty of our planet's soil that seldom any astral bodies can replicate. Do you understand what I'm saying right now? The question both it and isn't. Enigmatic and simple all at once. The creases in my mind deepen with every time I hear it uttered. If this is just like very common copy paste, I'll be very disappointed. I almost fear to ask of it of you, for it may burden you with the curse that has fallen on me for the last decade of my life. If you are content with the complexity of your life at the moment, I encourage you to stop reading. However, if you are bold enough to continue reading, I must warn you that there is no coming back from this. Are you ready, chat? Then allow me to recite this question to you, my dear dev. Ahem, would you rather have unlimited bacon but no games, or unlimited games but no games? I get no games either way, so I'll take the bacon. Game takes a long time to load. We're working on that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the many crack comparisons and gifs. Those were all very fun. Okay. That was wonderful. It took me an hour and a half to read all that. And if you haven't submitted yet, please feel free. I'll still read it later, and I'll be sharing it with the rest of the team. Turbo says unlimited games but no games is a vibe. I'd rather have bacon than vibes. So, some changes we've already made that I can announce. If I can remember all of them. And then we'll do a brief Q&A. Let me actually pull up my notes. My end of day notes to see what I did yesterday. Because it's been 2 days. Yes. Okay. I think it's a few. It's not a ton. It's been a very short period of time. The IPS scaling. So old Rosie combo was, I guess I can't replicate it now, but it was heavy, 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 do that again, and then launcher super. So, but now they would fall out on the launcher. One hit earlier. Book's corner loops, he gets one less loop. So instead of 9 hits, it's 7 hits. The change I made was the spin loops are sadly super not dead. If I was less bad, you can... That's a bug. I'll fix that. The way that IPS was going up is moves have a certain amount that they will increase. If this bar is 100, let's say heavies do 10. So every heavy will add 10 to the bar, or 10%. And then it would have a multiplier based on how many times you've used that exact move. And the multiplier used to be linear. So it would like add 10, and then 15, and then 20, and then 25. Now it's quadratic. So now it goes like 10, 20, 40, 80. So it still lets you do a few, but then it, like the first 1 or 2 is basically the same as the old system, but as soon as you do like a third or fourth, it should almost certainly fall out. For example, the trigger, like getting into IPS is still, exploitable. If you watch how fast the bar fills up now, it fills up way faster than it used to. But But like a normal combo is about the same, if not unchanged. And that's a very easy coefficient to massage and experiment with. But that's one attempt we're making to discourage loops. Also open to the same move proration thing. One of the other features is now... So let's say we were in versus, and our teams are 3 gains, right? If we go back to character select, or we finish the match, it remembers gain. Ooh, and there's a bug. If this is my team, Alistair, Book, Harmony, and then I go back, and if I'm just mashing, Alistair, Book, Harmony. Does it save the colors? It should. Yes. So this should make rematching way faster. We will eventually add an in-game rematch menu, but for conventions, I really don't want the game to get like left on a menu. So we'll probably still have this pattern where it always kicks you back. That also just encourages people to try other stuff. But now you could mash through and it'll go really fast. Time lost, take that question a little bit later. Let me just finish doing my run through. The other changes that are implemented are on Book. Bookie boy. His bookless heavies now behave like normal heavies. Whereas before, his bookless jump heavy would always knock down, and his bookless stand heavy would always send them flying. They would just lose their bounce. This gives him the ability to actually use heavies in his combos, so way higher damage, and just new routes. So, and then it actually then incentivizes you to plan your combo around getting rid of the book. Originally, this was like, I very intentionally added those properties, those moves, because I thought it'd make it more interesting. But that was a year ago, and with how much the game has changed since then, Savvy, I have to give full credit for this idea, suggested this, and I already love it. So for example, sorry, it's laggy like the first time sound plays. If I do this, now I can just like jump cancel. It doesn't send him flying. I can use that there. You can do heavy air dash into medium. You can do stuff like that. So I think this is a huge improvement and will make his combos more interesting. And just give him more options. And if you still want the hard knockdown, then just do 2 pipes. You'll still get those. But yeah, certain things, like a combo I would always do is like, whoops. I would do a really long combo into wheel, and then do that into pillars. It no longer knocks down, but it still gives you pillars. Just because it has enough hit stun. If he's a little bit closer, I lied. It should give you pillars. We'll work on that. The other change to Book that we're experimenting with, whoops, is the parry. What am I doing? There we go. And key roll over. The parry, you know, still has a parry, but it will no longer parry lows. So it's a little bit easier to contest. You don't have to run up to point blank and throw. You don't have this dance around, oh, I thought I was going to punish it, but it recovers like instantly. We'll experiment with lows being like a true answer. I'm going to, in turn, experiment with making it a little bit faster. I still don't think it should be frame 1, but yeah, that was the original intent when I requested this art a year ago, is that it wouldn't parry lows. But then my assumption is that not parrying lows would work like checking the hitbox. But that just felt so inconsistent. So I sort of tabled the idea. Now it just, as a rule, it cannot parry anything that you would have to block low. That's the stuff that's implemented. Combo changes, remembering character select, book. To tease you, Savvy gave me some fun ideas to make neutral block worse, to further incentivize blocking directionally and thus opening yourself up to cross-ups. Right now, the only incentive is having access to push block. But I think there's some design room to further increase that gap while still keeping neutral block strong. Like, I still want it to be like, oh, I'm about to enter the blender, let's just neutral block this out until they, run out of assists. But this will be sort of our version of almost instant blocking, because we can't actually add instant blocking because there's no risk in going back to neutral. But it will add that sort of better defensive mechanic that either gives you, frame advantage or pushback difference or something else. We're still playing with it. Gain infinite tapes. Oh yeah. What if Gain had infinite tapes? What if Gain when doing rewind just didn't spend the tape? Then the game is just all about getting that first tape. Yeah. No. That was a joke. People were joking about that in the Discord, and I shared the nugget that the original plan for the install was to have infinite tapes for a short period of time. Like a little bar would appear, it would tick down really quickly, and during that period you had infinite tapes. And I determined that was bad. That was dangerous, because then you could just, if you had infinite tapes, you could just very quickly do high low. It also pushes it into being like strictly for setups. If it's on a timer, if the timer's too long, then it's like way too strong. If it's too short, then like why would you risk doing it in neutral if you don't actually get to spend the tapes? So I'm having that struggle with books super right now with the Fire Belt. It feels so feast or famine. So I much prefer that you stock the tapes and now you have these forever until you need them. We maybe can go back up from 3. We'll see. But but that was that. I think that concludes the feedback review and the stuff that I wanted to show. So now I will take a very brief Q&A because my throat is quite sore from talking for an hour and a half. If you had questions before, just please post them again. I'm not going to scroll up. Kevin asks, can you use gain tape to cancel into jump? No. I don't think there's any moves where you can like jump cancel it or start up. The best you could do is, you could route into a move that you could jump cancel. So it would give the ability to do like, now you went from a rush punch situation into jump canceling with some extra steps. But like actually just going straight to jump cancel, no. DBZ Formers asks, I know short assist cooldowns are important to your design philosophy, but I wonder if you ever considered assist lockout a la Skullgirls. It'd help with the Alistair Beam issue a lot. Yes, a lot of the assist logic is kind of in flux and has been buggy. I finally got it working relatively recently where, the assist won't come back while the combo lasts. I want to do something for block stun. Like assist cannot recover during block stuns happening. I think essentially I want to create a system where like when you're in neutral you can sort of spam assists, but as soon as the combo or the block string starts, it actually starts to feel like a tense resource. And in terms of lockout, I'm familiar with like lockout on stuff like on snaps or on incoming. Are there other situations that Skullgirls does assist lockout? Please tell me. Olivia FGC asks, wait, what's the plan for making neutral block weaker? I don't want to say yet. because I'm considering a few different options, and I think they all have pros and cons, and I don't want to worry people yet. But it'll be a small enough difference that neutral blocking is still viable as a player, but a big enough difference that as an experienced player, you are incentivized to directional block. Random example. This probably won't be it, but here's another one. Like, you gain meter when you block stuff. What if that was only on back block? What if neutral blocking gave you no meter? Then, as an advanced player, you're like, oh, you're going to do a 10-hit block string? I want to block all of this to gain meter. Oops, I got crossed up. It wasn't worth it. That could be fun. That could be an angle that we explore. But it would be at that level. Kerbo asks, Paulozoid, why do you let Book have 8-way air dash, but not let Book easily do air dash mix-ups? Also, can you keep jump 2D always be air dash cancelable? I don't know if I can keep that. That's kind of bad. The intention with Book's air dash from the start was not to be Magneto. It was to be Iron Man. MVC3 Iron Man. He has the movement. He can present the audio again. He can present, oh my god, I can't do this. Oh my god. 2 highs, or delayed high, or 1 high, like that, or low. So he can mix you, but it's intentional that it's slow enough that you have to set it up. You pretty much, they need to already be blocking, or they need to be getting up from knockdown. Book is not the character that should be able to triangle dash their way in from mid-screen and then instantly high-low you. He's got to earn it. It also lets him do fun jumps and conversions like that I like. But that is very intentional. And sort of born out of that is his... It used to be actually everyone... Like, someone pointed this out. Book cannot do medium into medium. And I think everyone else can, except for maybe Gain, because his jump medium is weird. And you don't want to. For a while, nobody could do that. And it just felt so bad on Rosie, because her air dash had so much startup, that now her air dash is faster, you can act out of it faster, that just feels right. And as a consequence, yeah, you can combo jump medium into jump medium, and that feels right too. For him, I kind of like the restriction it gives you. The air dash is versatile for sort of adjusting and fixing your combos on the fly, but it has limited routes. By the way, if you want to have a consistent route for picking someone up before the ground bounce, my favorite is that. Paul knows ball. Kevin asks, will new characters come during playtest era or the open access era? The playtest era is hopefully until launch. I'm down to do these monthly things until launch. So you will see it happen in real time. Early access, I gotta update the sites. I think I said open access some date at some point. That was just something speculative. My current plan and hope is we just have monthly playtests and events until we're ready for the release candidate, which would be end of next year, late next year. Worst case, very early 2027. But we're on pace to be good for end of next year. Famous last words. But if something happens, we can't finish it by end of next year, or we run out of money before that point, because that's why we're targeting that. That's why we have this all lined up. That's when the money runs out, more or less. That's the budget we have. I'm spending the budget at a pace that it will carry us until the end of next year, with a little bit of extra. Some wiggle room. But part of that is we did get some additional investment relatively recently, so that helped a lot and allowed us to bring on people like Elisa and Onyx. But anything could happen. If somehow spikes cost or something happens and we run out of money early, then I'm open to doing early access as a way to start monetizing the game when it's not done. But ideally, I would like that clean separation. After having Tough Love Arena and early access for 4 years, I would love to not be in that state. And just have a clean release. This is a full product. And we'll have post-release content, but it'll be good. Any plans for Kickstarter? The advice I seem to get from basically everyone is Kickstarters aren't worth it. Just because of the insane amount of work they take. Like, I get the impression of, like, just the amount of time it takes to put in, like, making the campaign, shooting your little Kickstarter pitch video, designing the prizes, and then, like, advertising the campaign, giving updates, doing follow-up, especially if you do physical rewards. Then you could easily be, like, spending 2 months, a month or two as a full-time job doing Kickstarter, and then only get the money to cover, like, a month or two. And then, like, what was the point? So, like early access, it is there as an option. It's totally there as an option if we need the money, but right now we don't. So, not planning on it. DBZ formers, clarifying the assist lockout. If you hit the assist character, they get locked out. That makes sense. Yeah. Marvel might have that too. I just don't remember. That's totally reasonable. That sounds logical. I would definitely be down to add that. You could do it from jump 2D. I just want the ability to bully people with 60 and flame super into high-low. Return to the assist lockout. As a friend of things goes where the hit and assist carry, they're locked out clothing for a short bit. Yeah, I could definitely do that. Is it just you lock out that character because they're off, licking their wounds? Or does it lock out both assists? I'm curious. Kerbo asks, hey Paul, why do books normals have so many active frames? This is just a vision question. A fair question. Let's look at the active frames. The average, the sort of sweet spot number I usually give things is about 4. So he's pretty middle of the road, and except for this move. This move is an outlier. 2B and jump B. Jump B. Oh, well, the jump B is because it's until landing. And that was just like the flavor I wanted for, an elbow. It's an elbow drop. He comes in with it. So that was 100% flavor driven. This was a product from a very different era, and I might remove it. Book has changed a lot. Book and Alice, Rosie was first, and she came out the gate perfect. Perfect child. 10 out of 10, no notes. Relatively. There was so little we had to redo with her. Alistair's a completely new character. Book has changed a lot. And then I think I figured out what I was doing somewhere in Harmony. And then Gain came out perfect. Or maybe just aggressive characters are easier to design. I don't know. Book used to have very specific magic rule series. You could not alternate standing and crouching. Or you could only get one medium, so you had to choose. You couldn't do both. You could only get 2 lights. You couldn't do heavy into heavy, so his magic series would be way shorter. And this used to be part of a setup that you would go for. That was one of his game plans. When he had no books that provided Oki, that was his Oki. That was his setup. I think I knew a frame kill for this at some point. But yeah, you can do it meaty enough to get like to do links, to easily do links into light. You can do this one. Oh, too fast. You have to like delay it slightly so that they travel lower to the ground. Too fast. Like, why would you ever do that? I don't know, but you can link it into light. That one's goofy. Elbow drop is definitely staying. That one, it's funny. It's not hurting anybody. I think it's kind of cute. But that's why. It was like originally designed to be, like that was, it used to be very important to his kit. Now it's just a cute oddity. And I think it's fine to have cute oddities. What's the current plan for Gain 6D? Anything you can share? Not yet. You may be referring to the playtest shutdown stream I did 48 hours ago, where I previewed a potential new version for it. Basically, I was having the same thought as other people of Gain doesn't need this many reversals. And then, if so, what's an interesting special, a grounded special that we could give him that fulfills some role that he doesn't have? And one idea was as this either very limited or weak reversal, or as a like command jump. It's partly anchored on we already have art, so if I can find a good move for that art, that I'll probably do that first. But ultimately, it should be what serves the character. So that needs a little bit of time in the oven. So I guess Gain didn't come out perfect. I'm wrong, but they're coming out with less issues. They're getting a little bit better. Give him Demon Flip. Yeah, this was kind of like Demon Flip. Give him Akuma's Teleport. What else can we steal from Akuma? Give him Fireball? What if Gain had a Fireball? He originally, the way you... Tapes were always designed to be for rewinding, but then I wanted to have like a consolation use. If you didn't want to rewind, or if you're a beginner player and you were just like, I pressed neutral D, that didn't do anything. What does this button do? I always wanted to have the charge and spend. And the first version it was a Fireball. He shot the tape out of his face. He just like loaded it like a catapult and then pew! And then for a while he had a command grab. That was kind of cool. But it overlapped a lot in functionality with just rewinding in terms of like letting you convert off of stuff. And I started to fear that it got like a little too Rosie adjacent. He was harshing her vibe. And then the teleport was like a YOLO choice, and I think it needs tuning, but I love it. What's Mistfinder? Kerbo asks, to expand on the 2S extra down reach thing, since IAD down, JA whiffs against half the cast or more, you gotta do delay, air dash, down, jump B, but you rise so high, the flame super whiffs, and they can reverse. Yeah, that sounds complicated. It's okay. I'll fix that by just removing flame super. Problem solved. A Johnny move. Yeah, I stopped playing both Exerd and Strive before Johnny came out, so I've never played against Johnny. I have no idea what he does. I should learn. Okay, I'm going to call it there. Thank you all for hanging out.